All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today is a video with Ben VanHook, who has assembled a ton of teams on the front lines in Asheville and the greater surrounding area, and then one of my best friends, pastor of the Bridge Church, Josh Hyde. All the resources, everything. We're going to talk about all sorts of things: secondary problems, needs, serious needs, things that you can give to, things that you can make an impact on immediately. All the links to all the resources are down in the description. I pray that you would listen to this with an open heart, open ears, open mind, and share this video, this podcast, with two guys that are on the front lines making a direct impact, helping so many people. Pray about it, share this video, and I hope this is a very educational insight to the truth of what's going on in the mountains of Western North Carolina, East Tennessee, and western part of Virginia. Ben, I've heard your name come up through tons of people. What I'd like to do is just kind of maybe do quick introductions, talk maybe a little bit about what's going on. I know obviously you're on the forefront, your boots on the ground, you've assembled teams and everything. Josh, you're there. I'm from afar, but Ben, if you just kind of want to introduce yourself for everybody, then Josh, and I'll go, and then we'll kind of let the conversation go where God desires. And but I do want to cover obviously some basis and needs and how the general public and just people that watch this and can help. So anyways, Ben, you shoot first.
So I'm Ben VanHook. Grew up in Franklin, North Carolina. My company's still in Franklin, and I've developed all over the Southeast, Texas, Virginia, wherever. There's a ton of them, and we're still doing that. And I ended up in Mooresville, married my wife, Shayna, my baby girl, who's 6, Ivy, our 2 boys, Rocco and Leo, 8 and 10, and they're all a big part of this, and they are helping us tremendously. Now my focus from developing around the Southeast and the businesses that we own in other places is going to be bringing it all to Western North Carolina and healing and building Western North Carolina, and then using, instead of just putting a Band-Aid on the problem, come up with systems that will last forever. And whenever my kids are in Western North Carolina, the systems we put in place will still be at work. So that's my story and where I'm at right now. So
Love it. You serve in ministry and you're an entrepreneur, correct?
I do that. So my ministry is I'm out here telling people about Jesus every day. That's my ministry.
Yeah, love it, dude. Josh Hyde, my lead pastor, one of my best friends in the world. Tell people about yourself, what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Josh Hyde. I've been in the ministry for about 24 years now, as of this past Sunday, which is kind of crazy. I've been a lead pastor almost 21 years. I shouldn't have been a lead pastor 21 years ago. Didn't know what I was doing then, and I still don't know what I'm doing now. But I do it anyways, if you know what I mean. So really, and I'm married. I've been married for almost 13 years. And to my beautiful wife, Lauren, we have 2 kids, Kason and Ellie, and they're great. And really, like my mission, the mission of our church, we exist to reach, we call it Code Red. We exist to reach, equip, and deploy the now and next generations to expand God's kingdom. And that's really what we're about. This is not about my kingdom. It's not our kingdom. It's his kingdom. And we're just trying to expand his kingdom, one person, one man, one woman, one boy, one girl at a time, and tell them about Jesus. And so really, I've been focused. I'm at right beside Western Carolina University, which is actually where I met Austin all those years ago, back when he had long hair and playing baseball, and he didn't know a whole lot.
Still don't know.
So we met and we've known each other for all these years and hung out and shot turkeys and caught bass and killed deer, or tried to kill deer.
Oh, we've killed deer.
We've killed deer. That's true. We've had a good time at the place. So, but bringing this back, like my heart has been to help the now generation, boomers, Gen X, millennials, to reach Gen Z, to reach Gen A, to reach these next generations with the gospel. and then also to help Gen Z, that so many of these that I currently minister to right now, which is about half of our congregation are Gen Zers and a young congregation, of just to help them to see, like, God didn't just save you to sit on the sidelines. He saved you to get in the game, to do something, and to get off the sidelines, to get out of the pew, to get out of the seat, and to go make a difference, man. And that's what I have been so blown away at, so many young people. Man, when this thing went down, we didn't know what we were going to do. We didn't have a plan for this. Ben, I'm sure you didn't have a plan for this.
Yeah.
This is not something anybody was sitting around thinking about.
I've told everybody that it's what we're trying to do, and then look down the road and have a way to pay for this thing, and not strap people with debt, not strap, people get mad at me because that's what I'm thinking about, but I just know that we don't want to. But I compare it to trying to build a Ferris wheel that I've never built before, and it's turning, and I have all the wrong parts, and it's wobbly, and it's hard to hold on to. Yeah. And that's kind of what it's like doing, because I like, at the very beginning, I was running a iPad, a phone, and a laptop, and all three of them were going at the same time. And I don't like talking on the phone much, so I was on Bluetooth, typing on here, and the cool part was, if I had a problem that I had no idea, I'd be on the phone and I'd have no idea how I was going to find the solution to whatever the phone call was about. And just about every time I would hang up and I'd look at my text message, I'm like, oh, there's a solution. And all I do is pair those two together, and the solution went. It was really cool, actually, just to be a part of. I just told everybody I'm a general manager now. I don't actually do anything besides just pair people together, problems and solutions.
Well,
it was really cool.
That's what leadership is, right? It's a lot of serving. It's being the man on the forefront, and then discipleship is delegating those. You look at, like, Jesus modeled that directly in the Bible, right? People were coming to Jesus, and then Jesus was just like, hey, he literally paired them together, right? You're going to go out 2 by 2 and do the work that I do. So no, that's awesome, man. And so I'll do a quick introduction. Obviously this is going to be on my channel, but Austin Neary, I'm an entrepreneur, fishing industry. I really call Western North Carolina home, lived there for almost half my life, own real estate there, own a business. Actually, by the time this posts, I will no longer own the business. It will 100% be sold. But obviously still in real estate there, family there, friends there, and so many people I know personally, families, friends impacted by Helene. But you guys are on the ground. I've tried to create a lot of energy and content around just like how people can help. But Ben, you're there, man. Josh, you're there. Ben, why don't you just talk about, maybe some of the big needs that you're seeing, that your teams are seeing, and how people can give to those needs, how people can help you solve those needs. And
right now what we have is fuel, heating. So that's a need that's going to be almost impossible to keep up with, because it's basically, we don't even really know the total, but what we keep coming up with is about $125,000 a week for fuel needs, just to keep these people warm. And
this is propane.
Nobody can take that whole amount. So we're trying to come up with ways that are like, if you're a church, you can give $1,000 a week. You can commit to, I can give you this much. And the one thing that we have thought about and we're trying to implement, there's churches all around the country that want to help and they don't know how. But if we started pairing churches with towns, so, we took the towns that are affected and we get a church and we say, okay, you're going to be paired with this town and you're going to get them their needs. And then we just start going in order. And as churches come in, we pair them with different towns. And then it's basically a church adopting a town. We thought that would be a good way to do that. Another need is just money, like gift cards and something for people to go out and be able to buy stuff. The one thing that we're seeing is there's just so much, whenever you're sending goods, there's so much time involved in all this, because you got to pack it, you got to ship it, it has to come here, we have to take it out, we have to sort it. And don't get me wrong, we want it. If that's the option, we want the stuff. But then we run out of warehouse space, and it's hard to start finding a place to store it. So one thing that we came up with today is I want to start reaching out, and I came up with it because I was thinking about Ingles and the Thanksgiving coming. So if we had Ingles make a Thanksgiving package, let's say it's a turkey and all the dressing, and it costs $65. We could put gift cards with WNC Strong on them on our website. People could buy the $65 gift card, and then we know that that goes to a family for. But we can take that to a bigger, a much larger scale through the winter if we can come up with a gift card program, and those corporations, whenever we sell their gift card, would give us maybe 10% back. Then we could help. That would give us cash to go out and just be able to do it in the field as we see fit. But then they would know they're getting the gift card money, and then we're able to hand out gas cards, food cards, furniture cards. I mean, that's going to be the next. We're trying to tackle housing, but furniture is going to be the next, and home goods, because whenever we get these houses, we have to be able to give them a bed and pots and pans, and they lost everything. And it's, I've talked to the people in FEMA, and they're like, this is way worse than Katrina or anything that we've ever seen on the coast, because there the water just rose. So they still had their stuff whenever it went back down. Here it's gone. It's in the bottom of Lake Lure. It's over in Tennessee. It's literally gone. They don't have anything. So we've got to come up with ways to, one, take home goods and find places to store them, because that's going to be a hard one. We have 30,000 square feet in Londell. I actually forgot about. Now we're getting it set up. And again, I'm always thinking the future, but that's going to be a need of how do we get furniture and home goods, pots, pans to them. And then just, it's hard to describe it, but any way to give people hope. Being hopeless is a bad thing. And I've been there in my life. In a time whenever I was, should be, I've got a great wife. I had great kids. I was making a lot of money. And from the outside, it was a dream come true. And it should have been a dream come true to me, but I was hopeless and I couldn't tell anybody. And I know what being hopeless is like. And I didn't understand why I was even feeling like that. But these people are beyond that. They just lost everything, and it looks like there's no way to get back. Like right now, they're looking at this, they're like, how do I even start to rebuild? How do I even, and I can see the path how we do that, but they can't. So we need to be able to get to them and let them know we're working on that. You do what you have to do to survive right now, and we'll get you, we'll help you start rebuilding. It's not all on you. You've got a whole team around you. God's going to assemble more people than you would ever know, and we're going to get you out there. But we have to get a way to get that message out, because the mental stuff that comes out of this for the survivors and the volunteers is going to be very hard, especially on the mental. Let's get you with the church if I have to come talk to you, but don't do something that you can't take back. And I'm trying to find ways to give people hope and get it to them. And it can be little stuff like, if you're used to drinking Diet Coke and all you've had is water for the last 4 weeks, if we can find a way to get you a Diet Coke to make it seem normal, be the kind of normal. I mean, anything that's normal. It's just, I'm looking at the big picture, and a lot of people are looking at the big picture, and a lot of people say, well, you should only worry about housing. Why are you worried about Christmas? It's because these people's life has been destroyed, and they don't have any way to think about rebuilding at all. And they don't need to be thinking about that. They need to be thinking about, how do I get my family back in just order? How do I get my spiritual life in order?
Josh and I talked about that, because I got crucified, bro, because I made a video talking about how the economic impact maybe even greater than the physical impact.
Really?
You know, because like there's
We
a lot
don't
of,
do something about it.
well, that's right. Because I'm like, okay, and I'm not taking anything away. A lot of people have died, but I'm like, what if all the businesses go under and all the homes foreclose and everything happens?
Yeah.
And I said, you know how
A
many
lot more people will die.
That's right.
Like, you think that the death toll is bad now? You let everything go under and everybody lose everything and all hope's lost. There'll be people commit suicide.
Yes.
It'll be worse than. And the thing that about it right now, the way the government is setting these tent cities up, that's not. I mean, it's an option, and it might be all we have at this moment. I'm coming up with different ways, and I'm looking for land to do it on. But you got to think, you start throwing kids and families in a tent city with meth heads and prostitutes and the filth of the world. That is not a good option.
People have told me, they tell me, they're like, you're the most heartless person. People have died. And I was just like, you just wait. If this,
I'll get the big picture, and I don't blame them. So you can't fault those people. They're not a critical thinker or a big thinker, and that's fine. So I had the exact same thing, and all I do is tell them, I'm like, I know you're stressed. I know that you see the need for the housing and the need. I'm just looking at a bigger picture. I love you. God loves you. And I don't hold against what you just said to me, because some of them people have been mean about it. And I'm like,
like a snake.
I'm not gonna, they can't think enough to actually look at it. So
yeah,
we are the ones that should be thinking about, how do we rebuild for these people? How do we start it? You know, people don't want to talk about it, but we have to make revenue. We're going to have to start making money somehow to afford all this. And we have a full plan for that. But they don't need to be thinking about that, the people that are affected. So I've talked way too much about it, but basically hope. If we can come up with some way to give these people hope, that is a desperate need. And I think the tent revival we were talking about is one way, because we all know if you have a spiritual moment when you get saved, or if you just have a spiritual moment, the adrenaline from that and what carries over for the next week will give them hope. You know, a new beginning, a new life.
You know, to your point, Ben, just thinking about what you just said there, the tent revival, I'm getting ready to preach probably for the next 3 weeks out of John 6, which is the very first part where Jesus feeds the 5,000. Now we know he fed the 5,000. That doesn't include the women and the children. So that miracle, you know, many say there could have been up to 15 to 20,000 people there. But the thing that he started with was not the food. He started with food from heaven. He started with the teaching. He started with the truth. He started with hope. And then he brought the supplies that were needed. And, you know, and I think too, and, you know, thinking about like just going along, man, what I've been telling people, I'm like, look, when this first went down, I remember being here. We happened to keep Wi-Fi at our house. We kept power. You know, there's a lot of people without power. We didn't have the wind damage here in Jackson County, at least on this end. Now on the southern end, they had more up. They had a lot of power outages, and the cell towers were down, and we couldn't really call anybody. So when we got together and we met for the first time on a Sunday, it totally changed our service. Students went home. I had parents trying to get in touch with me to go find their kids. And I said, look, like, we need to see a need. I'm like, this is the time for the body to truly be the body, the true hands and feet of Jesus. See a need, meet a need. You know, I grew up, and my mom and dad said, if you see the trash needs to be taken out, you do it. You empty the dishwasher, you fold the clothes. And so I grew up with that mentality. And I think that is the body of Christ, is that, you know, that is being the good Samaritan, not walking by and ignoring the person laying there. And so I think that's a huge thing for the church. And I just say this to you, man, like, I want to come alongside you in this process to help to rebuild. I've told people this, and there's several things that I see. First of all, if you're out here watching this and you know, the news is not still really covering it. I mean, there are people. the folks like you, Austin, there's other people, YouTubers, the influencers, they're covering it. But the news, this is forgotten, man. We're in election time. They're going to go on. It's the next thing. And so everybody was running here to help. And man, we thank y'all. We thank y'all because I have handled so many bottles of water and packages, and our team we had all these students. We had all these people in the community coming together, churches working together. And we were just focused on feeding people and getting supplies to people, like you said, propane, and we're still doing that. And we've done just countless trips of just going into areas and taking stuff. But I told folks it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yep.
This thing didn't end after 2 weeks. It hasn't ended after a month. No, it's just years of building.
Here's the thing. What we have created, and I'll send you the game plan and the funds that we're creating. And one of them's a crowd fund. And the crazy part is I've never crowdfunded. And I've been looking at it for our business model. But, you know, whenever this happened, I'm like, we need to crowdfund, and that will unite everyone in this. Like the survivors, the volunteers, then they'll get ownership in it. Dude, I couldn't find anybody. And then like the people that raise funds, I'm like, you ever crowdfunded? No. I'm like, can you help me learn how? And they're like, no. And then one day, get a text, get on a call, and it's William McGuire. He's actually texting me right now. He's getting him here tomorrow. But he's like, well, I've raised 36% of the money raised in North Carolina on crowdfunding. I'm like, all right, we need to talk. Yeah. And then he didn't really go any further. And then we're in Swannanoa at Savage Freedom. I'm like, are we going to talk about this crowdfund or what? He's like, yeah, what do you want to do? And I told him basically, you know, it's a company owned by Western North Carolina, and the money, I work for Western North Carolina now, and the money made off of it's going to go to rebuild Western North Carolina and heal Western North Carolina. And we're going to set up endowments that will be here when my kids are gone, that will give affordable housing and affordable health care and heat. It's called the 3 H's: housing, healthcare, heat, or health, heat. Health includes food and mental and all of it. So then he literally looks at me and he goes, man, that's been my dream. What you just described, I've had on my Facebook profile for like 10 years. Like, all right, so now you want to get in? He's like, yes. He goes, my friend from California lands at 8:30 tonight in Charlotte, and he founded WeFunder and has raised like $200 million, and he loves helping causes, and he's in it for the right reason. He's like, you want to talk to him? I'm like, get him to my house. So we go to my house that night, start going. And so I went from having no clue how to crowdfund or anybody that would even help me to now I've got the founder of WeFunder in my basement, like just with me, and we're writing this fund, and he loved it. And it's going to be cool. It's not that we really need that money to even do this. What we need is unity and hope. It gives people hope. Like now they can give $100 and they feel like they're part of the solution and they can make a return. Everything we're doing is to keep the money in Western North Carolina. Get as much from around, bring it in, and it stay here these people are going to need jobs. They're going to need.
Can I talk on that behalf?
Yep.
Because you know, here I am as a small business owner, and not just a small business owner, but my business is directly tied with hospitality and tourism. And the mountains are obviously known. I mean, what is the #1 industry? People come to the mountains for vacation. They come for retreat. They come for the beauty, the culture, all those things. And, you know, Josh and I were talking about this, and these are secondary, tertiary needs. People don't realize, I mean, like my Airbnb business, no one's coming to Airbnbs. Now the cleaners are out. Now their cleaners' kids don't have food. Like these are like secondary issues. So, you know, when you say that like, hey, we need the economic reinforcement, like that's just the reality of a situation like this. I don't care if it's Florida. I don't care if it's wildfires in California, wherever. The economy, especially in hospitality and tourism, like we need those funds there. And you know, Josh and I were talking like, man, people are going to go avoid the mountains now, and they're going to go to the beach. They're going to have a good time at the beach, and the beach is going to be their new vacation. And that affects the mountains, you know, so go ahead.
What we're trying to do for that, and all this came to me, it's crazy because I had 2 trees die in my yard. My favorite tree, that was me and my wife's favorite tree. A storm came and broke the top out of it. And then another tree died just out of the blue. It just turned brown. So I had to get our crane, my crews come, and 2 Fridays ago, I was burning one of those logs out of a tree, and it was hollow, and it had 2 sections that the flames could burn through. And back up a little bit, I was going to have this ink on my arm put on our favorite tree that's in our yard. Even though it was broke off, it still is like 30 feet tall. So I had put on Facebook months ago, can anybody put this on, etch it into a tree? And I got like 30 people in North Carolina that said they could do it. So I'm sitting there burning the fire, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, that looks like art. Like, that would be really cool if then I looked at the tree that I was going to do this. I'm like, we could take the down trees that, you know, are the damage from Helene, and we could make art out of it. And then we would give the artist money to create it. And then we could auction it, and people would want it more, or we could sell it in our stores because it's actually the damage from Helene turned into art. So it was that, with that one thought, and that's why I said I'm not smart enough to come up with this. It's all God inspired, because there's no reason that one tree should have died, and my favorite tree break, and us not cut it. You know, whenever it broke, I should have cut it down, but I'm like, that's my favorite tree. I don't want to cut it down. And that was 2 years ago. So these 2 trees that died for a reason were the inspiration that made this whole business plan. Wow. So again, whenever I say that it's not me that came up with it, it was God's, you know, divinity. He already had all this plan. But me sitting around my fire, burning a tree that died, basically came up with a full plan. Now I had to grow it, of course, but that's the reason I came up with a plan that we can rebuild Western North Carolina and give hope. Man. And we can fund it all and not have to have governments or big corporations.
That's
so whenever it is. And whenever you talk about, so one aspect of it, and I meet at 8:45 in the morning with the production studio. You know, I'm in a land developer, but really I'm a marketing company that sells land. That's anything you do, you're a marketing company. So one part of this is we're going to take the whole story and the whole rebuild, and we're going to do docuseries on it and film it all. And we're going to keep us in the public eye, because right now they're going to forget about us in a week. And they're going to go away, like you just said, they're going to go away in a week if we don't do something. And they're going to say, it took 5 years to get Katrina rebuilt, or it's 20 years now and it's still not rebuilt. So let's not plan any of our vacations for at least 5 years up there. But if we are on the national stage in front of the public rebuilding, that's going to be like, they're going to be like, man, they're already rebuilding. They came together and didn't wait on the government. You know, God's moving up there. We're doing it. They're doing it all together. Let's go be part of the solution. Let's go up and see them. Let's stay in their hotels. Let's stay at their Airbnbs. Let's go downtown. Let's see these people and help these people and be a part of the movement that's rebuilding a region. And they're not waiting on the government. They're not waiting for help. Like, instead of waiting for help, they're being the help.
That's speaking to me, because I think about my life. I know all 3 of us think like this. We think about what kind of legacy we're going to leave. And I think so many people desire to be part of something that's greater than themselves. And it's like, what greater thing to be a part of like rebuilding of a community, rebuilding of a culture, being part of a legacy. You know, I love, it reminds me of a Rocky Balboa quote, right? It's not about how hard you hit, but how quick you get back up. You know, and I think what you're saying is that, I think what the churches are doing is that, and I think that's powerful. And I would encourage people, like, I mean, I hear people all the time, like, oh, mountain people, like, man, our blood bleeds red. We have families. We are, you know, I think there's some stereotype and stigma of mountain people. And I'm like, man, we're just people who are deeply, deeply in love with our communities. We care for our neighbors. You know,
Mhm.
I mean, obviously I've spent half my life, I've lived all over this country, and I ended up spending half my life there. And I think about it. I mean, the people of Western North Carolina are incredible. And I would encourage and hopefully inspire, all three of us, you know, would inspire people to like, come be a part of our community. Come
Yeah.
help leave a legacy, you know, that we can tell our kids about, that you can tell your kids about, because it's bigger than, man, it's bigger than politics. It's bigger than selfishness. It's like, literally, I think about Jesus. He said, there's no greater love than laying one's life down for another.
Yeah.
And that's what this is. I mean, this is literally what it means to give your life for another person, for another,
And that's,
for a bigger story.
I mean, the cool part is the way that it's set up is everyone's going to have ownership in the rebuild, and everyone's going to have ownership. If you were a volunteer, or if you're a survivor, if whatever, this doesn't leave anybody out. Whenever I was talking about, so the exponential was the health and wellness that we were doing, and we're still going to do it. So that's already set up. We're going to be able to use that for this. But the whole thing is, no matter where you're at, if you just stop and you start going in the right direction, and you do one thing today and two things tomorrow, and then maybe wait a little bit, and then it's four things the next day. Although that first path it was my path to sobriety. Although it seems like you're not going anywhere at first, and you keep adding stuff, then eventually it goes this way. And if all of us, but it can go the other way. You got to think about P. Diddy. You know, he started going this way, and then all of a sudden he ended up down there.
Great analogy.
Well, it can go the other way. So the thing is, you got to catch yourself. But my whole thing, whenever we were doing that, and a lot of it was based on addiction, I'm like, you know, this is for the heroin addict on the street, homeless, or it's the billionaire who has a weird addiction that we don't know about. But this is a way to heal them all, and it's for everybody in between. And on that, we were going to take, you know, if you get a heroin addict that's homeless, sober, you just can't throw him out on the street. And I was like, why do we have all this? Before I've been like, why do we have all these companies that we're not making money on? And then I was looking, I'm like, okay, that's why we're going to be able to take these people that we help and give them a job and not throw them back on the street, and be able to, you know, they might work for us for a month, or they might retire, and it was fine. That was going to be perfect. And the other part is, you know, right now people don't know how to be a mom or a dad or a husband or a wife. They grew up in broken homes, and they never saw the example. So in this, where we're talking about the heroin addict or the, you know, young person who just never saw a home, we were going to, in the addiction part, we were going to teach them to be a father, teach them to be a mother, teach them to be a husband and wife. It's hard to be a husband and wife as it is. And if you never saw an example of it growing up, it's damn hard. Like, I had a perfect mom. I had my mom and dad, they never fought in front of me. I'm sure they fought. Everybody fights. But, you know, and I have a perfect wife. I have you know, my wife, Shayna. We have Ivy Ray, who's 6.
I vouch, all three of us probably have perfect wives.
Yeah. And my wife, I'm telling you, she should have left my ass many times because of my drinking. And she fought for me, and she fought as hard as she could. And, you know, it's been said, I've read it and I believe it. A woman's duty is to take the man back to the source, and the source is God. And the man's duty for her leading him back to source is to give her protection. And I believe that 100%. She led me back to source. She led me back to God, where I grew up in the church, and she should have gave up on me, but she didn't. So that's why we're here. I mean, that's why Matthew 12:24 is on my arm. There's a lot of biblical stuff on here. 41 that's probably the craziest one, because I didn't think about 41. And I went, you know, in my path to sobriety around December last year, I started seeing all these 41s biblical. So, you know, it rained for 40 days, 41 came. Jesus was in the wilderness for 40 days, then 41 came. Israel was in the wilderness for 40 years, then 41 came. And I'm like, man, I'm 41 years old. That's pretty crazy, right? And then I was looking at my journal that I started. I was finishing up kind of my spiritual journey in July. and I looked back at my journal, and my first entry in that journal was my 41st birthday. I'm like, this is all, like God's signs leading up, and I'd already put 41 on there before I even looked at the journal. So, but again, it's just something else that ties me and makes me know that God's in this, and God's even read Matthew 12:24, read all of Matthew 12. What you can basically take from it is, even though we don't see him in it all the time, or we don't know why it's happening, it was basically, they were saying that the Pharisees were saying that Jesus was driving out demons because he was a demon. Yeah. And he said, a house divided will not last. Only a demon cannot drive out a demon. And it's kind of like in this, we don't know the greater picture, but God is in this, and it's our job to take care of the broken, and it's our job to get as many saved from it as possible. So,
Josh, can you give me Josh, can you give me some kind of needs you're seeing, and then just kind of where your heart is as a pastor of a church that's been working so hard to get everything back up to speed?
Yeah, man. I think for us, like, one of the needs that I'm seeing that, a lot of people aren't thinking about, Ben, you brought this up. I think there's an even greater need that maybe if you're watching this from the outside, you've seen stuff on the news. Let me tell you something you don't see. In Asheville, Asheville was hit, but many other areas that didn't get a lot of coverage were hit. But something that was in Asheville, like a Manna Food Bank, for example. There are so many food banks in these small communities, small town USA. We have a lot of poverty in this area, and a lot of kids depend on local food banks, some local churches, and one of these that we tagged along with here, Shane Danner, in this area, and his wife Sherry, Colby Valley Baptist Church, a Live Forgiven Church, or several churches came together, and we were just, meeting needs. And when this first happened, we're out taking food and supplies we in our local community. Into Clyde, I think we did 100 different trips into like Swannanoa, Asheville, Hendersonville. We were taking supplies over. They're going into Chimney Rock, Lake Lure, Bridge Hendo over there. I got a lot of pastor friends in different places, Spruce Pine, like all over. All of these communities in Western North Carolina have a lot of families and kids that depend on these local food banks. And so something that's happened now, I know at Ingalls, this just last week here, because Ingalls was hit, in Asheville as well, the distribution center, and they were really they had to scale back on groceries. I think Shane told me today, as of last week, this was the recent word, that like the local Ingalls down here in Silva, who usually gets like 6,500 cases per order, is rationed down to only 1,100 cases.
Oh my God.
On trucks. That's a huge need, man. And that doesn't just affect, folks who lost a home. And man, we're praying for all these people. Everybody, you go back to the basic needs. You need food, water, shelter, and you need hope. You got to have hope, man. You got to have food, water, shelter, hope. And so we're going into these places, and we're trying to even help feed the kids, because now Manna has had to relocate. I know they just had the concert down in Charlotte. Luke Combs and these guys did a concert, raised like $25 million. They're going to help some with Manna. Manna's in the process of receiving funds right now, but all these little food pantries and all these places where these people come get boxes every week, man, they don't have the food. And then they got to go to stores where they don't have the Laura Lynn brand now. And they got to buy the high-end brand. They got to spend that money, that they don't have. So if you're out there, you're watching this, you got to understand there's so many things. Even Austin, you brought this up, like the waves of what this has done. They're just continuing to go on, man. And so my heart is, I go back to the Pool of Bethesda. I preached that this past Sunday, or Sunday before last. And it's just, Jesus saw this man who was broken. He'd been in that situation 38 years. And I saw this. I've seen some incredible things in this. There's an opportunity for people, Ben, to your point, man, like they can sit in this, or we can take the hope of the gospel to them. Yep. And so my heart in this is that not only do we provide their need, but we provide their greatest need, their eternal need. I want to take the hope of Jesus to these people, man. We want to give them Jesus. We want to show them that there is life after this. There is not only life after this, there is life in this right now.
Yep.
There's hope in this right now. There is a light in this, man. And see, what I see in all this, the beauty of this is that God can take bad things and make them good. Romans 8:28, we know that. He can take the bad situation and he can turn it into good. And going back to that man at the pool of Bethesda was there for 38 years. Jesus came in. He looked at him. I want to tell you, if you're watching this, you're in our area, you've suffered. Jesus sees you. Jesus sees where you are. He knows where you're suffering. He comes to this man. He sees him. The man says, nobody's here to help me, but Jesus was there to help him. And Jesus is still here to help you. He's still here to help give you hope when you feel hopeless. And he wants to help you, just like he told that man, do you want to be healed? And I think there's a lot of people in Western North Carolina that, you know, like you said, Ben, like we didn't get as affected here. You didn't get as affected. Franklin didn't. Jackson didn't. We need to be able to go to those people and do you want to be healed? And we have to help them get up. And if you're watching this from the outside, you're in another area, you're in another state, man, like we want you to partner with us. WNC Strong, partner with these churches, partner with WNC Strong. Help us, help these people get up in Jesus' name, and not just bring the bread, but bring the bread of life. Bring the hope that they need. And listen, I want to challenge you, because it's so easy to be like, I want to meet a need for a short term. One of the beautiful things I love about the story of the Good Samaritan is that he didn't just meet a need, he continued to meet that need. Yeah. And I want to say, go long. I heard a great quote several years ago. I'm not going to name the pastor that said this because he's been under scrutiny. I won't throw his name out there, but I heard this great quote. It says, do for one what you wish you could do for everyone. Yep. And everyone, man, there's so many of you out here watching that you know someone that needs help, and go be the someone that helps that someone. Amen. Go do for one what you wish you could do for everyone. Go long, lean in, come make a difference. And listen, get your pocketbook involved, write checks, Venmo, like help us out, help us make a difference. That's what's needed.
To that point, we really need to be able to show people what we're spending that money on. And if we as a group come together, I mean, you know, that's the whole thing about WNC Strong is we're trying to unite everyone where we actually, you know, as long as your heart's in it for the right reason, this will work. And we have a real plan. We need to set up the like adopt a family. So, you know, out of Franklin, we could get a list of families that we know every week they have this need, and we go ahead and make a box for them, and we put everything in that box, and we take it to them every Monday, and then they don't have to worry about their necessities for the rest of the week. So that would actually give them the ability. It's kind of like, you know, I heard someone talking about in a third world country when they were able to provide clean water, it freed up 8 hours a day for one person because they were having to spend 8 hours to be able to walk, get water, and come back. Now that they gave them water, now they got 8 hours to actually improve their life. So if we could come up with adopt a family, and on Monday they know that all their needs are met that they're going to need for the week, then they've got, you know, they don't have to worry about that anymore. Now they can go out, now they have hope, and now they can go out and worry about, you know, digging out of this, getting better. And that also, it's almost impossible to make a spiritual connection if you're worried about where your meal is going to come from.
That's right.
It's like, now you might pray, but you're not really making your life. Because I talked about whenever I was hopeless, you know, at first, I didn't know why I felt like that. And it turned out that I'd taken 2 antibiotics in a 6-month period. And the doctors don't tell you that. If you take 1 antibiotic, you have like a 24% chance of mass depression. If you take 2 in a 6-month period, it's like 67%. But, you know, I didn't know why I felt like that, and I didn't know how to get out of it. But these people, if they are hopeless and they don't have food, you know, they might pray, but they're not. They're probably thinking, "There's no way there's a God out here." Because that's the way I was. I was like, at first, I cursed God and said, "You know, why would you let me feel like this?" And then I got to the point I was like, "There ain't a God. Like there's no way there's a God that would let me feel the way I feel." And I had to go through that to know how people feel, and I understand why I had to live through that. But these people, you know, if they're worried about where their meal's coming from, there's no way that they're saying, you know, God's a loving God and he'll take care of me. I mean, I don't even have a meal. So I think that if we can come up with a way to meet the basic needs and they know that that's taken care of, now let's get you spiritually happy and let's get you on the path to recovery.
Yeah.
I think as a group, that's something we really need to focus on.
Well, and
we have to be intentional on what we're doing.
Absolutely. And yeah, I just want to reiterate, you know, links are down in the description, guys. WNC Strong, Bridge Church, addresses you can ship things to, places you can give money, that you can be assured there's accountability with how the finances are spent, that they're going directly to victims of Hurricane Helene. You know, this is a we thing with the church, everybody, Americans. Like I said, wherever you are, this is an opportunity to really impact people for the better. And, you know, some things may not be seen. Like if you're maybe not in the state, you know, maybe you're in Texas watching this, maybe you're in Nebraska, maybe you're in Colorado and you give to this. God sees your heart, and you know, you may not be visible to people right here on the front lines, like your face is, but best believe your presence is. So I would encourage you guys, wherever you are watching this, you know, just pray, have an open heart, have an open mind. You know, I don't want to be morbid, but think about if you were in the situation, just what are the things that you would need, and you know, just things that would just be pressing on your mind. You know, just pray about those things. But like I said, all the links will be down in the description of this video. Everything, WNC Strong, Bridge Church, addresses, resources that you can give. I encourage you to share this video. You know, these two guys, I don't know Ben from Adam, just talked to him on the phone last night. You know, Josh's been a great friend of mine for over a decade, but two amazing guys. You know, I doubt they would call themselves amazing, but just two men that have a big heart to help people. And, you know, that's where we're at. But you guys want to give kind of any last words and wrap this thing up, Josh?
Yeah, let me two things. One, I want to say to Ben, like I said, man, I'm going to come alongside you. I know a lot of pastors all across the state, multiple states around, of some small churches and some huge churches. And there's some resources there, man. I'm going to help connect those guys. I was on the phone with one today, and I'm going to make that happen. And I know that they're going to get plugged in, man. I know they're going to help with this. And I think this thing's going to be big. And like you said, they can adopt a community, whatever it is. It's cool how the Holy Spirit's working, because I've been thinking some of those things, man, and you're like speaking them. So that's awesome. He's at work. But the second thing I want to say, man, like I know, Austin, you've done some videos about this already. Some folks have been sending some gifts in to us. And like, man, like we're putting those resources to good use, already buying supplies, getting food in the hands of people. Even today, we help give some money, the money that you sent to help a family get their driveway repaired because they can't even get to their home, and to help get that repaired. Another thing is that we were able to bless a ministry that is providing some of these meals. A third thing, like just yesterday, we were able to help a family that here in our area, a mom and a dad, they got 3 kids. There was an RV, a family in Illinois saw a need of this family. They sent an RV. We were able to, they got the RV to Tennessee, had some motor trouble. We were able to pay to have that fixed and to get the RV here. So it is on site today. This family now has a place to live again right now. And I just want to say thank you for those of you who donated already. Like, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. You are making a difference. And I just want you to know that from the bottom of my heart. We love you. We thank you. Thanks for when others forget about us. Thank you for not forgetting, because as Jesus said, when you've done it unto one of the least of these, my brethren, you've done it unto me. And when you do it for them, you're actually doing it for him. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Ben, you got anything to kind of wrap us up, buddy?
Yeah, and I'll say that exactly what Josh was going with. In all this, you know, it's been hard to explain to people that the movement we're making, you know, isn't for us to make money on, is to generate revenue. And that's been very hard to convince people, and I get it because they're leery of it. But in the end, all of it's God's anyway. No matter what we do, it's all God's, and that's what we're basing it on. The what Josh said about thank you everyone that thought about us and continues. I mean, the fact that you showed up or you stepped up or you reached out, you know, it shows that you do care and that you have a good heart. And there's a lot of, I think that's the one thing we can take away from this is we're not as divided as what the politicians want to say we are.
Absolutely.
You know, there's this movement is going to be a movement for everyone. And I want everyone to know as we go through this, and, you know, as I see it growing and expanding. And if you're a part of this movement that we're doing, everyone's an equal in it. No matter, like I said before, it's for the homeless person or the billionaire. But when you're part of this movement, throw all that out the window. I tell people we go to Ocean Lakes in Myrtle Beach and go camping. And Ocean Lakes gives me hope for humanity, because there's $30 RV spots that people stay in, and there's, you know, $10,000 a week beachfront houses, and everybody is in there, and there's everything in between. And every night they do a golf cart ride, and you go and you just slap hands, and this is the lines as long as you can see. And in that moment, nobody knows who anybody is, and everybody's just together, and everybody's having a fun time, and nobody cares. And, you know, that's kind of with this, nobody sees who anybody is, and that's the way it should be. So when you're a part of this, you're an equal. Everybody's an equal. And I want everyone to think that and know that and not even question it. If you need help, if you want to be a part of it, no matter what your skill is, there's something that you're supposed to be doing. God gave you that skill for a reason. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. We will find something for you that you are good at, and we'll make sure you fulfill your purpose with that skill. So that's what I got.
Awesome. Well, guys, like I said, links are down in the description of everything. I pray that you would pray about this, and then also praying that you would share this. You know, if it's on your heart, please share this video. We might be down in Western North Carolina, but we're not out, and we still have a long fight ahead of us. So just pray that you would see that it is a marathon and not a sprint. And there's a lot of help on the front lines, and a lot of great Americans, a lot of great Christians to see people and to see God move on the front lines helping. So Ben, Josh, love you guys a bunch, man. Appreciate you guys a ton. And let's keep getting after it. Okay.